That was The Bikeriders, a 2023 American crime drama written and directed by Jeff Nichols. Its plot inspired by the photo book of the same name by Danny Lyon. This movie stars Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, Michael Shannon, Mike Feist, and Norman Reedus, amongst others. And the official IMDb plot synopsis is: after a chance encounter, headstrong Kathy is drawn to Benny, member of Midwestern motorcycle club, the Vandals. As the club transforms into a dangerous underworld of violence, Benny must choose between Kathy and his loyalty to the club. What did you guys think of The Bikeriders?
Logan, do you want to hop in first here, or should I go?
Yeah, I can go. Yeah.
All right, go for it. Yeah, give you the prime spot.
Yeah, I liked The Bikeriders. I didn't really know anything about it going in. I knew Austin Butler was in it. That was pretty much it. But
you knew the guy that directed Midnight Special, because I told you.
Yes, I did, because James told me right before the movie. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. Also Michael Shannon, because you're like, yeah, Michael Shannon's in all of his movies.
Sure.
There was like a 5-minute period right at the beginning of the movie where I thought I was going to hate this, because based on literally nothing, because I didn't know what I was getting into, I had an idea that this was going to be like some like gritty, dark, like male fantasy movie.
Mhm.
And then we have like Tom Hardy doing a Three Stooges voice, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have to freaking like try and take this seriously during this like hardcore biker movie. But pretty quickly it's like, it's not that. It really isn't. Like, once they started like introducing the characters and stuff like that, and it was like way more lighthearted than I thought it was gonna be. And I sort of settled into the movie. So yeah, overall, like, I liked it. I thought Austin Butler was like actually really cool in this movie. I sort of like liked that they just let him be the cool guy, and he didn't like do that much, really. Like, not that he was like in the background or anything, but I am sort of hit or miss on Austin Butler based on what I've seen so far, but he was good in this. It was hilarious to see Norman Reedus show up with his like weird stuff he was wearing, and his teeth were all like messed up. That was pretty cool. I saw a comment online that was like, man, it's crazy, like Norman Reedus wasn't even supposed to be in this. He just showed up, or like didn't look like that or something.
Walked off the street. Yeah.
I love Michael Shannon, so I wish he was like in this more, but still like really enjoyed him in the movie. I thought it was like a cool movie, and it was easy to watch, and I was entertained, but I felt like maybe it kind of didn't find something to like sort of hang its hat on, you know? Like, it kind of gave us the story, and the story was like cool and entertaining, but I'm like, there was probably room to give us some like really, really cool, like bad A motorcycle scenes or something. I feel like we didn't really get that. There could have been like a little more emotional stakes, either with like Austin Butler and the girl whose name I don't remember. Jodie Comer. Yep. Which she was awesome too, by the way. Me and James were talking about how I wasn't familiar with her, but I liked her a lot. But we could have got a little bit more of like emotion from them, or even Austin Butler and Tom Hardy. I feel like we didn't quite get there with them either. There could have maybe been more of like a commentary on like toxic masculinity or something like that. We get a little of that, but we don't really get there. So it didn't like blow me away, but I had a good time watching it. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean,
James,
Jeff Nichols films, this is like his bag right here, where he like dips his toe into a genre, but he will not do it like everybody else does it. Like, you kind of expect there to be like a lot of motorcycle club violence. There's a little bit in here, but not a lot. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of it's unspoken. Like, it's at one point they're burning down a bar, and you realize the emergency response people, including the cops, like won't do anything about it because clearly they're scared of the motorcycle club. So instead of it being a movie where you see all the reasons why the police won't do anything about it, they just kind of imply things. You know what I mean? Like, that the motorcycle club's been up to no good. So that is definitely a Jeff Nichols staple if you've seen his other movies. Same with Midnight Special is another one that's like a sci-fi movie, but I think a lot of people who really love sci-fi don't like that movie because it doesn't fully commit until it does. And then you're kind of like, what am I watching? And I love that, but other people sometimes are put off by it.
Yeah. You made the comment at some point, I think after the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I asked if like you had known anything previously about the real story, and you said something like, I'm not sure if there actually is one. They might have just taken the pictures and like tried to fill in the gaps from there. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, I think that's exactly what they did. Like, that's what it seems like is in the movie is like, yeah, we got all these pictures. Like, we'll just figure something out from there.
Sure. I saw the movie more as like a love triangle movie that happens to take place in this specific community. You've got the Austin Butler character is kind of like the one that everybody wants. And then on one side, you got Jodie Comer playing Kathy, his wife and earlier girlfriend. And then you've got Tom Hardy's character who also wants to be around Austin Butler's cool guy motorcycle dude. You know what I mean? And he kind of looks up to him and thinks he should be his successor and doesn't really want to share him with Kathy either. He'll put up with Kathy, but I think would be just as happy if Austin was single and his right-hand man, essentially. But Austin Butler's just too cool to commit to anybody, I think.
Yes.
I also admire that this movie committed to objectifying Austin Butler. You know what I mean? Like they were like, yeah, we're going to give this guy every hero shot we can, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, his first shot, like at the pool table, like he's backlit and he's like hunched over.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, how mysterious can we make him right now? There's like cigarette smokes rolling around him.
Absolutely. I wonder how many lines he has in this movie because I don't think it's that many.
It's not very many at all.
Yeah.
Do you think he has more or less than Anya Taylor-Joy in Furiosa?
I think he has more, but not by leaps and bounds.
Not by a lot. No.
I don't know. I enjoyed it, but also I've never seen a bad Mike Nichols film. So take that for what you will. I like his style. Even though his style is like intentionally muted and kind of chill. So what'd you think of it, Kyle?
We'll see. I'm trying to think if I've seen another Jeff Nichols movie before. I confuse him and Mike Nichols. I've definitely seen Mike Nichols movies.
You saw Mud, right?
Yeah, I've seen Mud. That's the only Jeff Nichols movies I've seen. Mike Nichols did like The Graduate, right?
Mike Nichols?
There is a
not maybe. I don't know.
Isn't there a Mike Nichols? Sorry, I'm stuck on this right now. I will tell you what I thought about. Yeah. Mike Nichols did the Graduate and Closer and The Birdcage.
Okay. Is there any relation? I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm not gonna go down that. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole.
I don't think there is. I don't see anything on the Wikipedia page.
No, I think they're just both similar last names. They're both directors. We can look that up later. Yeah. I think I kind of agree with both of you guys where this movie gave me somewhat interesting characters. I found the side characters to be more engaging. Like Michael Shannon's character, he would just go on these long ranty stories and like the movie would just kind of cut away from him. Like every time he wanted a story, something else would happen. People were like, oh, what's that over there? So I dug that. I dug there was like these two like friends, I can't remember what their names were. They were hanging out. Like the Norman Reedus character shows up and he's like from this other club. He's super interesting. So I almost found the side characters more interesting than our main characters. Tom Hardy, he's kind of like this weekend warrior. Like he's running this motorcycle club, but he also has like a family and like has a 9-to-5 job. So I totally see how, right, he looks at Austin Butler, who seems to like be actually living the biker lifestyle. And right, even though he's older than Austin Butler's character, he looks up to him because he's like, oh, he has what I actually want. You know, he just lives in the wind.
He has full commitment.
Right. Like you never get the fact that you don't learn a lot. If I had a complaint, you don't learn a lot about our main characters. Like you learn a little bit about Tom Hardy, like he has a family, he has a job, but like you don't know, is he unhappy? Like, did he just start this club to hang out with guys, or is he trying to be an Austin Butler? You know, and Austin Butler is a complete enigma. Like I don't think we learn anything about him whatsoever in the movie.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you learn.
I'd say whatsoever.
I think you learn. Like, you get what you see. You know what I mean? Like, there's not much complication to that guy. He just is who he is. Type of
That's
thing.
kind of why I feel like that part of the movie worked better for me, because it like, I don't think it was meant to necessarily be mysterious, but it kind of feels that way. It's like, this is the cool guy, the stereotypical like biker dude, and he's just off in the corner, literally looking cool. Like that's his job in this movie. And yeah, it was like, dude, I want to be Austin Butler. Like,
right.
That's awesome.
And like the rest of the guys will like take their colors off if they're in the wrong neighborhood. Right. And like, Austin Butler's like, you'll take these off my dead body.
Yeah.
So yeah. I will say Jodie Comer by far is my favorite character, or maybe my favorite performance of anyone in this movie. I mean, she had the Chicago accent down pretty well. It's maybe a bit of a caricature, but like I thought it was pretty done. I thought it was pretty effective, and just like her little mannerisms, you know, how she like be telling stories and like dropping these these little asides, and it all felt very authentic to me.
Can I quickly talk about the voices really like?
Sure.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So it's just funny because like both of like these I guess opinions of mine exist in the same movie. It's kind of funny. So I'm not familiar with that actress, and he's very clearly like doing a voice, doing an accent, and I thought it was totally fine, and I thought she killed it, and even like was slightly like charmed by it, you know, like it was
right.
It was sort of entertaining to just watch her do that voice. Tom Hardy's voice drove me nuts. It drove me crazy. I like he literally sounds like one of the Three Stooges, and I'm like, if we're gonna have actors like do these really weird voices that are like so far outside of who they are, I'm like, just get a no name in there. Like, get someone that I don't know from something else to do the voice. The same thing with Maestro. Like, I just couldn't stand Bradley Cooper's voice, so I ended up not liking the movie. The one redeeming thing was like, wasn't he watching like a Marlon Brando movie or something? And Tom Hardy was, and he's like mimicking the voice. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah,
I didn't catch it.
He was right. He was watching like not the Wild Bunch, one of those. Yeah, it was a Brando biker movie.
Yeah, he was watching something, and then he like mimicked the voice. So I kind of gave it a pass because I'm like, well, at least there's like a character reason for this, I guess. But it still just it drove me crazy.
Like I don't think people really think of Chicago as having an accent, but there definitely is like a Chicago accent. And that's what Jodie Comer and Tom Hardy, to an extent, were doing. And like, if you think about like the old SNL skit, The Bears,
yeah,
I guess familiar with that one.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, you know, obviously that's playing up the Chicago accent, but it's definitely out there. But yeah, I agree. I think Jodie Comer like hit it out of the park with her character, her accent, the whole thing. And she's British in real life, correct?
Wow.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. If you were to hear her speak normally, you'd be even more impressed that she was able to kind of transform. I mean, Tom Hardy has a long history of being a weirdo when it comes to his voice. I mean, his Bane in Dark Knight Rises is like legendary for being weird. I think he's at the point in his career where he doesn't want to do something unless he can be weird in it in some way, shape, or form. Even Venom, like those movies are not good, but it's fun to watch him in it because he's fun. He gets to be weird in it. Yeah.
They're making a third one.
Evidently they do well enough that it's worth.
Apparently. Yeah.
And
they're probably on the cheaper end when it comes to superhero movies.
Yeah. Did you see the last one?
No, I wanted to, because I liked Venom enough where I wanted to see Let There Be Carnage. I've heard only bad things, so I'll probably skip it.
It was so brutal.
I haven't seen either one.
Yeah. The first Venom is entertaining enough to watch for free if you find it somewhere, like on a streaming service. But the second one, I would not even recommend people check it out unless they really need to complete something. I don't know. It was bad.
I will agree with you guys that I did find this movie a bit meandering, and maybe that's the Jeff Nichols style, where like we kind of follow one character and then we follow another, and like time's a little fluid about when things are actually happening, and there's highs and lows, but they're never high highs or low lows. Like maybe the most dramatic moment is Jodie Comer at the party, and that's kind of like her breaking point.
Yeah.
But even like, I'm going to say even the Tom Hardy stuff towards the end of his story, like didn't seem like this big moment that it should have been.
Yeah. I had the exact same feeling. I wasn't surprised by it. It didn't really have like, I didn't feel like emotionally invested. I feel like you kind of knew that was going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I wasn't sad about it until we get the moment with Jodie and Austin Butler on the steps. That's when I was sad about it, is seeing the character's reaction to the Tom Hardy situation, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree that it's meandering, and also it's a Jeff Nichols vibe. Like his movies are like that. Just and this is totally in his wheelhouse, I would say. And I love kind of the mutedness, the fact that like it's not the same type of high moment that you would get in a Tarantino movie or something like that, for sure. Because you could see Tarantino making a version of this movie that plays very differently, for sure. And Jeff Nichols, I think, is a specific filmmaker, and he's kind of proven over the course of 6-7 movies that he's just gonna make the same movie and change the subject matter, like from a vibe perspective, from a presentational perspective. I also thought this was really beautiful, like for a movie about a motorcycle club. Like there's a lot of, what's the term right at the end of the day?
Magic hour.
A lot
shots?
of magic hour shots riding down the road, with pans of the club zooming down the road, and
they're all working like 9-to-5 jobs, so they have to go riding after.
Of course,
they can only ride during magic hour. It's the only time they're free.
Yeah, I was sad too when there's kind of there's another right hand man that goes missing halfway through the movie, kind of the bald-headed guy who kind of seemed like a little bit of like the moral center of what was going on, and then when you lose him to the story, I was more sad about him exiting the picture than anybody else.
This is one of these movies where you watch the trailer and you're getting a much different movie. And like I remember this trailer playing a couple times. And the trailer is way more dramatic, and it's like, the club, and there's voiceover of like Austin Butler and be like, this isn't who we are, and like shots of things. There's no mention of like Jodie Comer. I don't even think is in the trailer, or she is. She's hardly in it. It's definitely like Austin Butler, Tom Hardy.
Right.
So like at least the trailers I was seeing were cut for like you want like you want the gritty action, like the gritty cycle movie.
Right.
This is what you're gonna get. And that's not what this movie is. That did ruin. I'm not saying the trailer ruined the movie for me. I just found it very interesting that what I was sold was much different than what I was given.
Yeah, in the actual movie, especially there towards the beginning, she's getting like the full like Goodfellas voiceover treatment where she's just telling the story. She's like a big part.
I always wanted to be a bike rider.
I did kind of like the framing of the story, I guess, or like how it was presented was like, it was like Almost Famous, but we're not following a band, we're following a motorcycle club. There was like the kid doing the interview. And I guess like with Jodie Comer, kind of like, is that her name? Jodie Comer? I can't remember.
Jodie Comer,
kind of telling the story. I thought that was cool. I really love Michael Shannon. He's one of my favorite actors, and he's so like wild in this movie. Like he looks homeless, you know? And
Yeah.
you know what's funny is he's telling the story about, this was actually like the most like maybe emotional moment that I felt in the movie is he's telling the story about how he wanted to go into the army
Mhm.
and they wouldn't draft
Oh,
him
for Nam. Yeah.
because he wasn't like moral enough or whatever they said. Are either of you guys familiar with the song Alice's Restaurant? Do you know this Arlo Guthrie song?
Yeah, the Arlo Guthrie
Mhm.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a
Yeah.
tradition to listen to on Thanksgiving. I don't know if you guys ever
Yep.
like heard, but
No.
that
I've
song,
done that before. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a Midwest thing, honestly, because like
Huh.
my dad's family grew up in Ohio, and we listened.
Okay.
That was like our family tradition every year on Thanksgiving. But anyways, it's like it's a I don't know if it's a parody song necessarily, but it's like a comedic song that is about a guy that wants to go fight in Vietnam, and then they find out that he got arrested for littering, and they tell him he's not moral enough, he can't go fight in Vietnam. So it was really weird to see like almost that exact same story play out with Michael Shannon in this movie, where I'm like,
Right.
I'm used to it as like this comedic thing. I never considered the fact that maybe that is a real thing that happened to people in some strange way. And like
Mhm.
Michael Shannon is like distraught about it in the movie.
Mhm.
And I thought that was so interesting. And even it's funny because like they do the cutaway thing even in that moment. It's like it feels really heartfelt, and like Michael Shannon's kind of given, and then they just cut away to something else in the middle of the story.
I think Norman Reedus shows up at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
funny moment about that, by the way. So like Norman Reedus shows up, and I very like quietly and politely, while considering the other people around me, whisper to James, "Is that the guy from Walking Dead?" And
Right. Yeah.
yeah, he's like, yeah. And not 30 seconds later, the guy at the very end of our road just goes, "That's the guy from Walking Dead." Like literally just yells it so the whole theater could hear. And I had
Yeah.
to like compose myself because I was gonna just laugh so hard.
The-
It was like
the t-
perfect timing.
Yeah, the timing was amazing. For sure.
We appreciate your discreetness.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see the show Sons of Anarchy?
Oh yeah, every episode
Okay.
as
I
it
haven't
aired.
Yeah.
watched it all, but I've seen some of it. Yeah.
So I guess I kept thinking of that show as I was watching this movie,
Mhm.
and like wondering if that show is at all influenced by this story, because there is the love triangle.
Mhm.
There is like, the woman who gets she's in love with like the hot young biker who's the protege, and they're torn between the two. Obviously, Sons of Anarchy is much more of a soap opera.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
I just saw a lot of parallels between the two. I wonder if there is some influence between the book, The Bikeriders, and
Well, yeah,
that
Sons
show.
of Anarchy had 7 seasons with 13 one-hour episodes to tell their story. So
Oh yeah, no, it's a different medium for sure.
Yeah.
But like there were just a lot the base
there were
setup is very
motorcycles
similar.
and relationships, yes.
No, but it wasn't like, I feel like your main character in Sons of Anarchy was Charlie Hunnam. He was like the young hotshot.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, there was some like Shakespearean stuff going on with the club leader, and then you have like his ex-girlfriend who becomes she's back in town, and she's torn between her life as the outside world and her life in the club, and
Sure.
yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. They're just,
Okay.
to me, they just have bikes. They're
just
both
have
about
bikes,
bike
okay.
gangs and relationships. But that's pretty much where it stops. Like the presentation is very different between this and
All right.
like there's no subtlety to Sons of Anarchy.
No, it's Hamlet with motorcycles.
Right. Whereas I think
Yeah.
Bikeriders has some subtlety to it here and there.
Right, for sure. No, I'm not saying they're the same thing. I just saw parallels between the two.
Sure.
Obviously, one's a little bit more heightened and soap opera-y.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Definitely. All right. Let's talk about the end of the movie without spoiling it. What did you guys think of kind of like that final conclusion, the interview, leading up to kind of the front of the garage scene? Was that satisfying?
I was unsatisfied at the very, very end, basically because there's like a very specific sound effect that is playing. I'm like trying to dance around it,
Sure.
And like, if you take that away, just that sound effect, I feel like it gives us a little bit of like mystery or a little bit of like audience interpretation to that moment, like but with that sound effect, it's very, very clear like how the character feels in that moment. And I feel like the movie overall like would have benefited if we sort of got to decide like where we think the character actually is at the end. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yeah, that makes
sense. So you
sense.
felt
Yep.
it was like a little bit of a nod to like, you know, once in the club, always in the club type of thing.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
from a
like,
brain perspective.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
it's telling us basically like, oh, this is how he really feels, instead of like letting us think like, does he feel that way? Or like, did he give it up? Does he want to go back? Like, you know.
Sure.
So I'll say in the moment when I saw this movie, that did not bother me. The addition of the sound effect. I agree that sound effect gives you an idea of where that character's head is.
Yeah.
But yeah, also upon you pointed out, I also agree that I think it would have been a better ending had they left that part out and just left, because the character kind of gives this, I don't know if it's a smirk or a disingenuous smile is maybe the best way to put it.
I couldn't place it either because they kind of smile at each other, but like, there was something about each of their smirks that seemed a little bit like mischievous almost.
Or menacing almost.
Yeah,
like,
it was weird.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I think, again, it didn't bother me, but I can see how if they had not put that one effect in there, that would have given you more of like, oh, how can I interpret this?
Yeah.
I mean, I generally agree. They could have left it out. It would have been a similar ending as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they could have left it at the steps in Illinois, and that would have been a perfectly fine ending for me too. You know, when you've got two characters sitting on the steps, kind of hugging.
Yeah, and they kind of set that up like pretty well actually throughout the movie, because during the interview she's talking about how he never ever cries, like she's never seen him cry or whatever. So they really set up that moment, and it didn't like quite get me even in that moment, but I kind of agree that could have been another like cool ending for the movie though.
Yeah.
Can I tell you guys one more thing kind of random that I liked in this movie?
Yeah, definitely.
Every time they're hanging out in a like crappy dive bar, they just look so cool. Like I'm like, I want to go hang out in that crappy dive bar. Like I drive to a lot of like small to medium sized towns for work, and every once in a while it's fun to like walk into the dive bar where literally you open the door and there's a bunch of biker dudes and you're like, dude, I might get punched just for walking in here. Like it's kind of fun. And like that's like where they're hanging out in the movie, and it like was always convincing, you know, like all the tables had all kinds of like drinks that were empty or half full or whatever, and everyone's smoking cigarettes, and I'm like, that's like a cool crappy dive bar. I'm gonna go there.
I thought it was an interesting representation too of like a biker gang, but like it's basically just a bunch of dudes who need a social club, and then over time it turned into the cliche of what you think of with motorcycle club guys, but they're really just normal dudes who like need a social scene and invented one on their own.
Right. They started like they were racing bikes first, right? That was and then they're like, well, let's just ride them around instead. All right. It reminds me of that one Simpsons episode where like Homer gets a bike and he starts a motorcycle club, and like Apu's on a moped, and like Carl and Lenny are like in a sidecar, and you know, again, it's just a bunch of guys hanging out on their different wheeled vehicles. So
never seen it.
Oh, it's a classic Simpsons. I know, we've had this discussion. I've been my son's into the Simpsons, and we've been like going back to the old seasons and like watching the classic ones. And sometimes he'll be like, hey, can we watch a classic Simpsons? Like, yeah, of course we can. Like, so many to choose from.
I don't like Bart. He's a bad example for me, so I gotta stay away.
I was just thinking, like, you know, Logan, I feel like if you walk into a biker bar, like you at least have some of the look. Like, people can't see you right now, but like Logan's got like long hair and a beard and like a nose piercing. And like James, you've got your own beard thing going on, so you could pass. I walk into a biker. I think you have better chance than I do of walking to a biker bar.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know.
also
So-
have a motorcycle. It's not a Harley,
Oh,
so
nice.
different style, but
Sure. Zach has a motorcycle, right?
Had.
Oh, did he get rid
I
of
don't
it?
think he has one anymore. It's been a while.
okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Interesting. All right. Anything else we need to say about the bike riders? Are we ready to letterbox rank it?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it. What are you guys going to give Jeff Nichols, The Bike Riders?
I'll give it 3.5.
I also gave it a 3.5, but that's including the half-star Kevin Smith bump. But in this case, Kevin Smith is James, and
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you.
On the
No celebrity
podcast,
sightings this time.
yeah.
Nice. I'll give it a 4. I liked it.
Nice.